Welcome to Wife Cheating Story. I hope you have an enjoyable and relaxing time listening. Let's get started.
Wife cheated on me and family betrayed me, so I took my power, money, and walked away. The next part. Finally, I addressed the stunned audience directly. I apologize for transforming this celebration into public exposure. But when those closest to you construct elaborate conspiracy to destroy everything you've built, justice requires witnesses. Sir Charles Whitmore stepped forward, placing supportive hand on my shoulder. What we've witnessed tonight is not merely family drama, but business ethics in its most fundamental form. The courage to stand for truth, despite personal cost, deserves our respect. Spontaneous applause erupted from portions of the audience initially hesitant, then building to substantial ovation. Business leaders recognized the principles at stake beyond the personal tragedy. Tonight was scheduled to announce a $300 million Liverpool waterfront development, I concluded. That project was fabricated bait to accelerate the conspiracy timeline and maximize evidence gathering. However, the real announcement is more significant. The screen behind me displayed new Fletcher Properties organizational structure, streamlined, internationalized, headquartered in Manchester rather than Liverpool. Fletcher Properties has been sold to international consortium effective tomorrow. I will establish new consultancy focused on business ethics and corporate integrity. The transaction closes an important chapter while opening new possibilities. I turned one final time toward the family table, broken people confronting consequences of their actions. You plan to take everything, my money, my company, my reputation, my daughter's respect. Instead, you lose everything while I begin anew. Justice, not revenge. With that final statement, I stepped away from the podium. The hall erupted in chaos, journalists rushing toward exits with phones pressed to ears, security personnel moving to contain various disruptions, business leaders clustering in shocked discussion. Through my earpiece, Ian's voice. Courtney approaching from East Entrance. Divorce papers being served to Caitlin by courier. Police standing by for Victor. Media protocols initiated. I moved toward the side exit where my daughter waited, her face reflecting complex emotions, shock, pride, grief, resolution. Behind me, the conspiracy collapsed into recrimination and chaos. The architect of revenge had completed his design. Justice stood revealed in steel and glass clarity, unforgiving as winter light. November 17, 2012. The alarm broke the silence at 5 a.m., though sleep had barely touched me. Outside my window, Liverpool lay shrouded in pre-dawn darkness, the city oblivious to the seismic shift about to crack its business community's foundation. I rose and moved to the study, where my presentation materials waited the culmination of months of investigation, planning, and strategic patience. Each slide, each audio clip, each piece of evidence had been meticulously arranged for maximum impact. The architecture of justice, rendered in pixels and sound waves. Downstairs, I heard Caitlin stirring. Her excitement had kept her restless too, though for entirely different reasons. Tonight represented her triumph, the pinnacle before claiming her prize. The irony wasn't lost on me. "You're up early," she said, appearing in the doorway in silk pajamas, another expensive purchase on my credit card. Her smile held anticipation barely disguised as affection. "Final preparations," I replied, closing the laptop. "Big day. The biggest." She crossed the room, wrapped her arms around me from behind. "I'm so proud of you, darling." The embrace felt like shackles. I turned, kissed her forehead one last performance. "What will you wear tonight?" I asked. "The red Valentino, and those diamonds you gave me for our 15th anniversary." Her eyes sparkled with calculation thinly veiled as sentiment. Seemed appropriate. Perfect choice. The morning unfolded with surreal normalcy. Caitlin spent hours preparing hair appointment, manicure, careful selection of accessories. The bathroom counter displayed her arsenal of beauty products like weapons arrayed for battle. Our phones buzzed constantly with family messages, the group chat erupting with anticipation. My mother, "Can't believe this day has finally come. So proud of my boy." Sarah, "Weather forecast perfect for tonight. Everything aligned for the Fletcher family triumph." Richard, surprisingly direct, "This will be the night that changes everything." He had no idea how right he was. While Caitlin was at the salon, I made one final secure call to Ian. "All systems operational," he confirmed. Security in position. Technical team has tested presentation systems 3 times. Backup servers online. Courtney? Arrived safely last night. Rebecca's keeping her company at the hotel until transfer to venue. She's nervous but resolute. And our targets? All confirmed attendance. Victor arrived early, already networking. Your parents left for the hairdresser 30 minutes ago. Sarah and David arguing about which car to take apparently both want to arrive in the BMW for appearances. Evan checking in with venue staff about seating arrangements. Everyone playing their assigned roles, I observed, right up until the curtain falls. My mother called at noon, voice trembling with affected emotion. Adrian, darling, are you nervous? We're all so proud. Just finalizing my speech, Mother. About family values, she emphasized. So important to acknowledge where you came from. I intend to acknowledge everyone properly, I assured her. Your father and I bought new outfits. He even got a haircut. Her laugh sounded brittle. This will be the proudest day of my life. The lies came so easily to her now. Had they always? Sarah called next, bubbling with artificial enthusiasm. I've arranged the babysitter until tomorrow morning we can properly celebrate after the ceremony. Celebrate the destruction of her brother. The thought crystallized my resolve. By late afternoon, Caitlin returned, transformed into the perfect corporate wife, hair styled in elegant waves, makeup flawless, nails polished the exact shade of her dress. She moved through our bedroom with practiced efficiency, laying out jewelry, checking her appearance from every angle. Sarah's coming early to help me finish getting ready, she announced. We should coordinate our arrival time with your parents. Family convoy, I agreed, appropriate for the occasion. Sarah arrived at 5, bringing a bottle of champagne and air kisses. Pre-celebration ritual, she announced, popping the cork with exaggerated flair. Watching my wife and sister prepare together, trading compliments and adjusting each other's accessories, I felt strangely detached, like observing actors rehearsing a play I'd already read the ending to. You look like a queen, Sarah told Caitlin, adjusting the diamond necklace. Tonight is your night too. If only she knew. A delivery arrived flowers for Caitlin. White roses, Victor's signature. The card read, Tonight we celebrate our future. She tucked it away quickly, but not before I glimpsed the message. By 6:30, we were ready. I wore my best tuxedo Tom Ford, perfectly tailored. Caitlin's red Valentino clung to her figure, the diamonds at her throat catching light like captured stars. The perfect power couple for the evening society pages. My parents arrived in their new Mercedes, another gift from their successful son. My mother wore navy blue silk, my father a new suit that failed to disguise his gambler's hunched shoulders. This will be the night that changes everything, my father said, clapping my shoulder. The only honest statement he'd made in months, though not as he intended. We arranged the vehicles, my Aston Martin in front, my parents and Sarah and David following in separate cars. A family procession to witness their own undoing. As we pulled away from Woolton, Caitlin placed her hand on mine. I love you so much, she said. Tonight feels like our real wedding day. The performance deserved recognition, her control remarkable even at the precipice. You're absolutely right, darling, I replied, navigating through evening traffic. Tonight changes everything forever. The November darkness had fallen completely, Liverpool's lights reflecting on rain-slicked streets. St. George's Hall appeared ahead, its neoclassical columns illuminated dramatically against the night sky. Red carpet, security, photographers, the scene of my most significant architecture, not of buildings, but of justice. Caitlin squeezed my hand. Ready for your moment? I've been preparing for months, I answered truthfully. As we approached the entrance, cameras flashed, capturing Liverpool's power couple in their final public appearance. Caitlin smiled radiantly, practiced in presenting perfect imagery. We posed, her arm linked through mine, the diamonds sparkling under media lights. My parents joined us for photographs. 3 generations of Fletcher success, Caitlin announced to a journalist. The irony tasted bitter. Inside, the grand hall hummed with Liverpool's elite business leaders, politicians, celebrities. Victor mingled confidently near the bar, his tall figure distinctive in the crowd. He nodded in my direction, conspirator acknowledging fellow actor. unaware he was actually the mark. Evan worked the room aggressively, shaking hands and slapping backs, building alliances for his anticipated ascension after my fall. His wife watched from their table, oblivious to the betrayal she would witness tonight. Through my earpiece, Ian's voice, "Courtney in position. East balcony with Dr. Hayes. All systems operational." I glanced up briefly, though I couldn't see my daughter from this angle. Knowing she was there witnessing rather than hearing secondhand was essential. Truth required witnesses, especially those most affected by the lies. Sir Charles Whitmore approached, aristocratic features composed. "Everything prepared, Adrian?" "All ready, Charles." He nodded almost imperceptibly. Justice awaits its moment. The preliminaries began: welcome speeches, minor awards, dinner service. I ate nothing, drank nothing. Caitlin shimmered beside me, playing her role flawlessly, touching my arm, whispering encouragements, smiling for cameras. My family watched from our table with anticipated triumph barely concealed. My mother dabbed at manufactured tears. My father checked his watch repeatedly, counting down to his financial salvation. Sarah texted constantly, undoubtedly updating co-conspirators about timing. At 8:25 p.m., precisely as planned, Sir Charles approached the podium. The moment had arrived. 7 months of investigation, planning, and strategic patience culminated in this single point in time. As he began his introduction, I felt a strange calm descend, the quiet certainty of justice about to be served. 15 years of marriage, 4 decades of family bonds, lifelong friendship with Evan, all revealed as facades concealing betrayal and greed. "Please welcome to the stage," Sir Charles concluded, "to speak on family values in business, Mr. Adrian Fletcher." Applause erupted as I rose. Caitlin kissed my cheek. "Go get them, darling." I walked toward the stage, each step carrying me toward a new reality. Behind me lay 15 years of lies. Ahead, the architecture of truth I had designed with such care. The storm was about to break. The spotlight caught me as I mounted the stage steps, transforming my shadow into a giant against the backdrop screen. 400 of Liverpool's elite sat in expectant silence: business leaders, politicians, society figures, all gathered to witness what they believed would be a standard acceptance speech from their entrepreneur of the year. None suspected they were about to witness the systematic dismantling of a family conspiracy. "Thank you, Charles, for that generous introduction," I began, voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through my veins. "And thank you to the Business Awards Committee for this recognition. Standard opening establishing normalcy before detonation. Tonight, I want to speak about family values in business, about loyalty, trust, and the foundation upon which success is truly built." The screens behind me illuminated with family photographs, carefully selected images from happier times. Wedding day with Caitlin, Christmas at our Woolton villa, Courtney's graduation, moments once precious, now evidence. From my position at the podium, I could see Caitlin beaming with practiced pride. My mother dabbed at manufactured tears. My father sat straighter, anticipating the acknowledgement of his sacrifices for my success. Sarah squeezed David's hand, their financial salvation seemingly at hand. "We often attribute business success to strategy, timing, or market insight," I continued. "But beneath these factors lies something more fundamental: the people who support us, who share our vision, who celebrate our victories and sustain us through challenges." The audience nodded approvingly, standard corporate wisdom delivered with apparent sincerity. My journey from Kirkby Council Estate to this stage tonight would have been impossible without family support. My parents, who sacrificed for my education. Camera panned to their proud faces. My sister, who believed in me from the beginning. Sarah smiled on cue. My wife, Caitlin, partner in every success. Close up on her perfect smile. The trap was set, the audience engaged, the targets positioned. "But what happens," I asked, voice dropping slightly, "when family becomes your enemy?" Confused murmurs rippled through the crowd. Caitlin's smile faltered almost imperceptibly. "What happens when those closest to you, those you trust implicitly, support financially, love unconditionally, conspire against you?" The screens behind me changed abruptly, timeline of conspiracy replacing family photographs. Gasps echoed through the hall as the presentation shifted from celebration to revelation. Tonight, I present a different kind of business case study, not about property development or urban renewal, but about betrayal, conspiracy, and justice. From my vantage point, I watched realization dawn across their faces: my wife, my parents, my sister, my friend, the blood draining from Caitlin's perfect features, my mother's hand flying to her throat, my father's poker face finally cracking, Sarah's eyes widening in horror. Phase 1 began in March 2012, I explained, clicking to advance the presentation. When my wife Caitlin initiated an affair with Victor Ashford of Morrison Holdings, not as personal indiscretion, but as calculated financial extraction strategy. The screens displayed surveillance photos Caitlin and Victor entering hotels, sharing intimate dinners, exchanging kisses in parking structures. Victor, seated with the Morrison Holdings delegation, half rose before Elena Morrison's hand on his arm restrained him. This affair wasn't about emotion or connection, I continued relentlessly. It was the opening move in a comprehensive conspiracy to extract my assets, destroy my company, and dismantle my life. I advanced to the next slide: text messages between Caitlin and Victor discussing their plan and timeline. Phase 2 expanded beyond simple infidelity, I continued, voice steady despite the emotional turmoil beneath, incorporating my parents, my sister, and my closest business associate into a comprehensive conspiracy. The screen shifted to WhatsApp conversations between conspirators, messages about maximizing settlement, asset division, and post-divorce strategy. The evidence displayed in stark clarity, impossible to dismiss as misunderstanding or coincidence. My own mother, I said, voice finally revealing emotion, who told me she was proud tonight, previously said this to Caitlin. The overhead speakers played crystal clear recording. Caitlin is more like a daughter to me than Adrian is a son. She understands family loyalty. My mother's gasp was audible across the silent hall. My sister Sarah, I continued, who moments ago kissed my cheek in celebration, said this about my marriage. Another recording. Adrian owes us this money anyway. We helped raise him. His success came from our sacrifice. Sarah slumped in her chair, hands covering her face. My closest friend and business partner, Evan Sterling, I gestured toward his ashen face, planned to assume control of Fletcher Properties following my emotional breakdown after the divorce for $5 million consultant fee payable from my own assets. The screen displayed email exchanges between Evan, Victor, and Caitlin, detailed plans for corporate takeover following my anticipated collapse. But most comprehensive was my wife's strategy, I continued, turning directly toward Caitlin. Her perfect mask had shattered completely, replaced by naked panic. A document titled Liberation Plan detailed every aspect of my destruction: personal, professional, financial, and social. The screens displayed excerpts from her planning document: meticulous strategy for divorce, asset extraction, reputation destruction, and aftermath management. Timeline. Business Awards, November 17th. I read directly from her document. Adrian's public triumph followed by private devastation. Divorce papers filed November 19th. Settlement negotiations through December. Financial extraction complete by January 2023. Caitlin half rose, swaying slightly. Security personnel materialized nearby, not threatening, simply present. The audience sat in stunned silence, Liverpool's elite witnessing an unprecedented public unmasking. Asset division, I continued reading. $15 million to Caitlin, $5 million distributed among Fletcher family members, $5 million to Victor and Evan for new venture. The systematic exposure continued relentlessly: email threads, bank transfers, audio recordings displayed with clinical precision. Each piece of evidence another nail in the conspiracy's coffin. For example, I continued, this conversation between my wife and Victor Ashford, recorded in our guest bedroom while I was supposedly in Manchester. The overhead speakers delivered crystal clear audio. Just 6 more months, baby, then we'll have everything. His family is completely on our side. Victor's voice followed. You're brilliant. Getting his own mother to support our plan. Elena Morrison stood abruptly, turning toward Victor with glacial fury. You're terminated, effective immediately. Security will escort you from the building. Morrison holding security personnel materialized beside Victor, who sputtered ineffectually about misunderstanding and context. Or this discussion between my parents about their participation, I continued relentlessly. Richard's voice filled the hall. This feels wrong, Margaret. He's our son. My mother's response. And what choice do we have? Your gambling has ruined us. The loan sharks are threatening you. Adrian would never give us enough to cover those debts. My father's voice hardened. He owes us. All those years, I worked double shifts at the shipyard while he went to university. His success came from our sacrifice. My father sat frozen, poker face finally cracking under public exposure. My mother appeared to physically collapse, requiring assistance from nearby guests. Or this exchange between my sister and her husband about their financial expectations. Sarah's recorded voice. We'll be millionaires by Christmas. Adrian's settlement will cover everything: mortgage, credit cards, new house in Formby. David, are you sure this will work? It feels wrong betraying your brother this way. Sarah, he owes us this money. We've struggled while he lives in luxury. Caitlin's plan is perfect. The audience watched in stunned silence as the conspiracy unfolded before them, not vague accusations, but irrefutable evidence, presented with clinical precision. The complete conspiracy file has been provided to appropriate authorities, I informed them. Police investigation into fraud charges begins tomorrow. Corporate espionage evidence has been submitted to regulatory bodies. Immigration authorities have been notified regarding visa violations. Victor attempted to move toward an exit, only to find security personnel blocking his path. But justice extends beyond legal consequences, I continued. It requires truth. Public, undeniable truth witnessed by those who matter. I turned toward Caitlin directly. You plan to serve divorce papers immediately after tonight's ceremony. Perfect timing, maximum public triumph before private devastation. The settlement would divide my assets among conspirators while destroying my professional reputation and personal relationships. I removed papers from my jacket pocket. Instead, these divorce papers naming adultery and conspiracy will be served to you as you leave this hall. Your settlement, statutory minimum under UK law, approximately $50,000 from what would have been $25 million under your plan. Caitlin finally found her voice, rising unsteadily. Adrian, please, this isn't what it looks. Your own words, Caitlin, your own planning documents, your own recorded voice discussing how to maximize extraction from our marriage. You don't understand, she pleaded, mascara tracking down perfect cheeks. Your family approached me first. Richard's gambling debts. Save it for court, I interrupted coldly, where every piece of evidence will be examined under oath. I turned toward my parents. The cottage in Formby will be sold immediately. Monthly support terminated permanently. You chose money over loyalty. Live with the consequences. My mother sobbed openly. My father stared at the table. Decades of composure finally shattered. To Sarah, mortgage support ends today. The loans you've counted on disappear immediately. Your new beginning will start from bankruptcy rather than betrayal. My sister couldn't meet my eyes, shoulders shaking with silent sobs. To Evan, Fletcher Properties partnership terminated effective immediately. Board members have received complete evidence of your planned takeover. Corporate espionage charges pending. Evan remained standing, face ashen, mouth working soundlessly. Finally, I addressed the stunned audience directly. I apologize for transforming this celebration into public exposure, but when those closest to you construct an elaborate conspiracy to destroy everything you've built, justice requires witnesses. Sir Charles Whitmore stepped forward, placing a supportive hand on my shoulder. What we've witnessed tonight is not merely family drama, but business ethics in its most fundamental form. The courage to stand for truth despite personal cost deserves our respect. Spontaneous applause erupted from portions of the audience initially hesitant, then building to substantial ovation. Business leaders recognized the principles at stake beyond the personal tragedy. Tonight was scheduled to announce a $300 million Liverpool waterfront development, I concluded. That project was fabricated bait to accelerate the conspiracy timeline and maximize evidence gathering. However, the real announcement is more significant. The screen behind me displayed new Fletcher Properties organizational structure streamlined, internationalized, headquartered in Manchester rather than Liverpool. Fletcher Properties has been sold to International Consortium effective tomorrow. I will establish new consultancy focused on business ethics and corporate integrity. The transaction closes an important chapter while opening new possibilities. I turned one final time toward the family table, broken people confronting consequences of their actions. You plan to take everything: my money, my company, my reputation, my daughter's respect. Instead, you lose everything while I begin anew. Justice, not revenge. With that final statement, I stepped away from the podium. The hall erupted in chaos, journalists rushing toward exits with phones pressed to ears, security personnel moving to contain various disruptions, business leaders clustering in shocked discussion. Through my earpiece, Ian's voice: Courtney approaching from East Entrance. Divorce papers being served to Caitlin by courier. Police standing by for Victor. Media protocols initiated. I moved toward the side exit where my daughter waited, her face reflecting complex emotions: shock, pride, grief, resolution. Behind me, the conspiracy collapsed into recrimination and chaos. The storm had broken. The damage was complete. The architect of revenge had executed his design. The next 30 minutes unfolded in controlled chaos, a symphony of destruction I had orchestrated note by note. Standing near the east exit with Courtney's hand firmly in mine, I watched my careful planning manifest in real-time consequences across St. George's Hall. "Dad," Courtney whispered, her grip tightening as Caitlin received the divorce papers from a suited courier. I knew it was bad, but this... "I'm sorry you had to witness it," I told her. "But you deserved the truth, not sanitized versions they would have fed you." Dr. Hayes appeared at her other side, providing silent support as we observed the aftermath. At the main table, Caitlin's composure had completely disintegrated. The poised corporate wife replaced by a desperate woman whose carefully constructed future had imploded spectacularly. She clutched the divorce papers, makeup streaked down her cheeks, designer gown suddenly looking like costume rather than clothing. "This can't be happening," she kept repeating, voice rising with hysteria. "Adrian, please, we can explain." Nearby, my mother had physically collapsed, requiring assistance from paramedics who materialized with remarkable efficiency Ian's contingency planning at work. My father sat frozen, poker face finally abandoned, staring at nothing while decades of calculated manipulation crashed around him. Sarah huddled beneath the table in a futile attempt to escape public scrutiny. Her husband David already on his phone, likely calling their solicitor about impending financial disaster. Across the hall, Victor Ashford's situation deteriorated most dramatically. Eleanor Morrison stood before him, ice-cold fury evident even from distance. 15 years building Morrison Holdings' reputation, her voice carried despite the surrounding chaos. Destroyed by your predatory behavior. Again. "Eleanor, you don't understand," Victor began. "I understand perfectly." She cut him off. "You're terminated. Security will escort you from the building. Your personal effects will be sent to your last known address. Your visa sponsorship is revoked effective immediately." Two security personnel materialized beside him as Elena turned to address uniformed police officers who had appeared at the entrance. "Officers, Mr. Ashford's work visa expires in 13 days. Given tonight's evidence and termination of employment, his immigration status requires immediate review." Victor's face drained of remaining color as handcuffs appeared. The corporate predator finally facing consequences beyond financial settlements. Perhaps most dramatic was Evan's situation. His wife Charlotte had approached during my presentation, listening with increasing horror to evidence of her husband's betrayal. Now she stood before him, removing her wedding ring with deliberate precision. 15 years, she said, voice carrying despite its quietness. 3 children, all while you plotted to betray your best friend for money. "Charlotte, this is a misunderstanding," Evan began. "Is it?" She dropped the ring into his champagne glass. "I've already called my solicitor. He'll contact you tomorrow regarding divorce proceedings. Don't come home tonight." The business community's reaction proved most surprising. Rather than uncomfortable avoidance, many approached me directly: handshakes, supportive comments, even business cards pressed into my palm. "Fletcher, that took extraordinary courage," James Henderson from Northern Development said, gripping my hand. Your integrity stands in stark contrast to what we witnessed tonight. Call me next week, Victoria Zhang of Asian Investment Partners added. We have projects requiring ethical leadership. Sir Charles Whitmore worked the room with aristocratic efficiency, reinforcing the narrative of principled stand against corruption rather than personal revenge. His endorsement carried significant weight in Liverpool's hierarchical business community. In 40 years of business, I overheard him telling a group of influential developers, I've never witnessed such comprehensive betrayal, nor such principled response. Fletcher exposed corruption that would have destroyed not just his family, but potentially our business community's integrity. Near the main entrance, journalists had gathered in growing numbers, Liverpool Echo, BBC Northwest, even national business correspondents sensing significant story. Ian's media team intercepted them with prepared statements and promised press conference tomorrow morning. Throughout this orchestrated chaos, security personnel maintained strategic positions, not interfering, but ensuring no situation escalated beyond acceptable parameters. Ian's voice occasionally updated me through my earpiece. Police taking Victor into custody for immigration violations. Caitlin's solicitor has arrived, attempting damage control without success. Your parents being escorted to separate vehicle. Mother requiring medical attention for anxiety attack. Sarah and David leaving through kitchen exit to avoid press. Evan's business partners confronting him about confidential information breach. Each update confirmed another aspect of my strategy successfully executed. The systematic dismantling of conspiracy proceeding exactly as designed. The most dramatic confrontation occurred when my family members found themselves temporarily clustered near the service exit, waiting for separate vehicles. Their unity fractured under pressure, recriminations erupting with vicious intensity. You brought this on us with your gambling, my mother hissed at my father, abandoning decades of public solidarity. £60,000 to bookmakers while pretending everything was fine. And you thought betraying our son was the solution? My father countered, voice breaking with uncharacteristic emotion. Your precious Caitlin led us straight to ruin. Sarah turned on both of them, her face contorted with fury and shame. You ruined my marriage for nothing. David's already talking divorce. We'll lose everything. You were happy enough spending Adrian's money, my father shot back. Designer clothes, new car, exotic holidays, all while complaining about your brother's selfishness. Their artificial family bond disintegrated under pressure, revealing the transactional nature of their relationships. Love had long ago been replaced by financial dependency, resentment, and calculation. I approached this pitiful tableau, Courtney still by my side. Their argument ceased immediately, faces showing varying combinations of shame, defiance, and calculation. Adrian, my father began, straightening his shoulders with remnants of dignity. You were supposed to take care of family. That's what success means. I did take care of family, I replied evenly. 15 years of financial support, opportunities, safety nets. You chose money over love. Live with the consequences. Son, please. My mother reached toward me, tears tracking through expensive makeup. We can explain. There's nothing to explain. Your own words, your own planning, your own betrayal, all documented beyond question. The gambling debts, my father began, desperation evident. The loan sharks were threatening. You could have come to me directly, I interrupted coldly. Instead, you conspired to take everything through betrayal. That choice has consequences. I turned to Sarah, who couldn't meet my eyes. The monthly support ends immediately. The mortgage assistance disappears today. Your new beginning starts from bankruptcy rather than betrayal. We'll have nothing, she whispered. You had family, I corrected. You chose conspiracy instead. With that final statement, I turned away from them. Their continued protests faded behind me as security personnel guided them toward separate exits. Family in name only, now permanently severed. Returning to where Caitlin sat, surrounded by hastily assembled legal advisors, I maintained perfect composure despite the emotional maelstrom beneath. She looked up as I approached, desperate calculation replacing her earlier hysteria. Adrian, she began, voice modulated to the persuasive tone that had manipulated me for years. This situation has been grossly misrepresented. Victor approached me first, threatened to expose Richard's gambling debts if I didn't save the performance. I interrupted. Your own planning documents detail every aspect of this conspiracy timeline, asset division, narrative management, 7 months of documented betrayal. 15 years of marriage deserves better than public humiliation, her solicitor interjected, attempting damage control. 15 years of marriage deserved better than calculated betrayal, I countered. She planned public humiliation for me divorce papers immediately following tonight's award. Justice required witnesses to truth, not carefully managed lies. Caitlin's composure cracked again, desperation replacing calculation. What happens now? Where am I supposed to go? Everything I have is purchased with my money, I finished for her. The statutory settlement provides $50,000. Start there. $50,000? Her voice rose with renewed panic. That's nothing. The house, the cars, my clothes, all part of marital assets being liquidated. You'll receive minimum legal entitlement given documented adultery and conspiracy. Her face contorted with sudden fury. You've ruined me. No, Caitlin, you did that yourself. Systematically, methodically, over months of planning. With those final words, I turned away from the woman I'd once loved completely. Behind me, her composure finally shattered entirely, security personnel and paramedics converging as anxiety attack overwhelmed her. As planned, members of the press had been strategically positioned to document key moments without interfering. Caitlin receiving divorce papers, Victor's arrest, my family's implosion, business leaders' supportive handshakes. The narrative taking shape exactly as designed. Sir Charles approached as we prepared to exit. Adrian, the car is waiting at the east entrance. Press has been contained, but we'll expect brief statement. Everything prepared, I confirmed. He squeezed my shoulder supportively. In 40 years of business, I've never witnessed such principled response to betrayal. When the shock subsides, you'll find the community firmly in your corner. Thank you, Charles, for everything. With Courtney's hand still in mine, Dr. Hayes following discreetly behind, we moved toward the exit where Ian waited with security team. The architect of revenge departing his most significant construction, leaving behind devastation more complete than any building demolition. Outside, camera flashes erupted in the November night, journalists calling questions in chaotic overlap. I paused briefly at the prepared position, Courtney beside me as planned, father and daughter united against betrayal. Mr. Fletcher, was this planned exposure part of larger strategy? Why public revelation rather than private legal action? What happens to Fletcher Properties now? I raised a hand, bringing temporary silence. Today, justice was served. I protected my daughter's inheritance from those who conspired to take everything through betrayal. Further details will be provided at tomorrow's press conference. With that brief statement, security personnel created path through media crowd toward waiting Bentley Ian's selection for appropriate departure image. As we slipped into its leather-scented interior, I caught final glimpses of the aftermath. Caitlin being assisted into ambulance, the red Valentino gown stark against medical equipment. Victor in handcuffs, immigration officers checking his passport while police secured him for transport. My parents entering separate vehicles, decades of marriage fracturing under pressure. Sarah and David arguing viciously beside their BMW, marriage disintegrating in real time. Evan standing alone on the steps, abandoned by wife, friends, and business associates in the space of 30 minutes. The storm had broken. The damage was complete. The architect of revenge had executed his design with devastating precision. As the Bentley pulled away from St. George's Hall, Courtney finally spoke. Dad, I'm proud of you for fighting back. I'm sorry you had to see your mother like that, I replied softly. She shook her head, surprising maturity in her expression. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. The signs were there, her phone always locked, mysterious appointments, the way she talked about you to Grandma when she thought I wasn't listening. You weren't meant to see it, I assured her. Children shouldn't have to recognize their parents' betrayal. As Liverpool's lights streaked past the windows, I felt the first faint stirring of what might eventually become peace. The storm had broken, yes, but behind its fury lay the possibility of clearer skies. The Hilton Liverpool's presidential suite offered sanctuary from the media storm raging outside. 50+ reporters camped in the rain, held at bay by hotel security and Ian's specialized team. Inside, Courtney and I shared room service dinner in relative silence, the evening's events still settling between us like dust after explosion. "They're saying it's the biggest business scandal in Liverpool history," she said finally, scrolling through news alerts on her phone. "Your name is trending on Twitter." Not unexpected. I sipped water, having declined wine despite needing it. Clear mind remained essential. Aftermath required precise management. The media strategy anticipated significant coverage. Strategy. She set down her phone, studying me with new awareness. "You planned everything, didn't you? For months." 7 months, 3 days. I met her gaze directly. "Since discovering your mother's affair and the wider conspiracy. And you never said anything, never showed any sign. Would you have preferred knowing earlier? Carrying that knowledge through your final university term?" She considered this, twisting her napkin. "At 22, my daughter possessed remarkable poise, her mother's social grace fortunately paired with my analytical mind rather than Caitlin's manipulative instincts." "No," she admitted finally, "but living in ignorance while everyone plotted. It makes me question everything, every family dinner, every phone call with Grandma, every conversation with Mum. The hardest part," I acknowledged, "questioning every memory, wondering which moments were genuine." Margaret Thornfield QC called as we finished dinner, her crisp voice reflecting professional satisfaction with the evening's execution. "Divorce papers successfully served. Asset freezing orders implemented across all identified accounts. Judge Hamilton signed restraining orders against all primary conspirators. They cannot approach you, Courtney, your residences, or business locations." Police status? Victor Ashford in custody for immigration violations. Border Force confirms visa cancellation with deportation proceedings initiated. Financial fraud investigation formally opened with your evidence files assigned to Detective Chief Inspector Williams, experienced in complex financial crimes. Excellent. And media management? Press conference scheduled for 10 a.m. tomorrow at Manchester office, neutral territory away from Liverpool emotional climate. Statement drafts prepared for your review. Key journalists already receiving background briefings. Perfect. Thank you, Margaret. The pleasure was professional as well as personal, she replied with rare emotional transparency. In 30 years of divorce law, I've never witnessed such comprehensive justice. Ian's update followed immediately: security protocols, evidence preservation, surveillance continuation. His methodical approach provided reassuring contrast to the emotional chaos we'd unleashed. Fletcher Properties' transition team implemented contingency protocols, he confirmed. Digital security locked down. Physical security doubled at all properties. International consortium representatives arriving tomorrow to formalize transfer. And our targets? All under observation. Caitlin released from hospital, currently at Whitworth's residence, her university friend. Your parents returned to Formby Cottage, separate bedrooms. Sarah and David continuing public argument at their home. Evan checked into Premier Inn after wife changed locks. Victor remains in police custody pending immigration hearing. The systematic destruction of their lives reported with same clinical precision they had planned for mine. A text message interrupted our conversation, my mother's name appearing on screen like accusation. "Adrian, please, we can explain. This terrible misunderstanding can be resolved. Your father is devastated. Please call. We're still family." Still attempting manipulation even now. The desperation of drowning people clutching at anything. "No response necessary," I told Ian. "Block the number permanently." "All of them?" "All of them." Courtney watched this exchange, her expression unreadable. "You're really cutting them off completely? Forever?" "They chose money over loyalty," I replied simply. "Actions have consequences." She nodded slowly, understanding but not necessarily agreeing. Youth still permitted belief in redemption that experience had stripped from me. The night stretched on, sleep impossible despite exhaustion. While Courtney finally dozed in an adjoining room, I stood at floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Liverpool's illuminated waterfront, the city I'd helped rebuild, where I'd made my fortune and my life. My phone buzzed with updates throughout the night. Liverpool Echo finalizing front page. Betrayed businessman's revenge. With photograph of me leaving St. George's Hall. Courtney by my side. Police investigation expanding to include potential financial fraud charges against all conspirators. Morrison Holdings stock dropping in after hours trading as news spread through business networks. Most surprising were messages of support from unexpected sources, business associates, casual acquaintances, even competitors expressing admiration for principled stand against corruption and courage in exposing betrayal. By dawn, Ian's team had compiled preliminary impact assessment, media coverage extending from local to national business publications, social media sentiment tracking 78% supportive of my actions. Fletcher Properties, shares rising 15% in pre-market trading, integrity premium. Business leaders requesting meetings to discuss future ventures. Competitor organizations distancing themselves from all conspirators. The architecture of revenge had expanded beyond personal justice to become business case study in ethics and consequences exactly as designed. Breakfast arrived with morning papers, my face on front pages, headlines ranging from factual, Fletcher exposes family conspiracy, to sensational, revenge served cold at business awards. The narrative taking shape exactly as planned, principled businessman standing against corruption rather than vengeful husband exposing adultery. Courtney emerged. Dressed in clothes Margaret Thornfield had arranged fresh start symbolism extending to wardrobe. She studied the newspapers without comment, then finally addressed the question hanging between us. What happens to Mum now? The emotional core beneath clinical execution. Despite everything, she remained daughter as well as victim. Legally? Divorce proceedings continue with evidence ensuring minimum settlement approximately $50,000. Professionally? Her marketing career in Liverpool is finished. No reputable firm will hire her given public exposure. Financially? From millionaire lifestyle to starting over with basic resources. And personally? I considered this carefully. That depends on her resilience and adaptability. Your mother has always possessed remarkable social skills. Whether she can reconstruct identity based on something beyond manipulation remains to be seen. Will I have to testify? In court? No. The evidence is comprehensive without requiring your involvement. Relief crossed her face briefly. Can I still see her? Eventually? You're 22, Courtney. Adult decisions are yours to make. My advice would be extreme caution. Your mother's manipulation skills are formidable. But I won't prohibit contact if you choose it. She nodded, absorbing this autonomy with visible relief. And what about us? Where do we go from here? The essential question beneath all others, the future beyond revenge. Manchester penthouse temporarily, then perhaps travel New Zealand, Canada, Scotland, places to reflect and reset. Professionally, new consultancy focused on business ethics and corporate integrity. For you, completion of business school if you wish, or other directions entirely. Your trust fund remains secure regardless. Together, though, she pressed. We stay connected? Always, I assured her. Family redefined by loyalty rather than blood. As morning light strengthened across Liverpool's skyline, preparations accelerated for departure not just from hotel but from city itself. Margaret Thornfield coordinated legal follow-through. Ian managed security and logistics. Sarah Chen ensured digital footprint remained protected. At precisely 9:30 a.m., we departed Hilton Liverpool through secure underground parking, avoiding media gauntlet at main entrance. The Bentley carried us toward Manchester, where press conference awaited, followed by new beginning beyond Betrayal's shadow. As Liverpool receded in rearview mirror, I felt strange lightness, not happiness yet, but absence of weight carried too long. The architect of revenge had completed his design. Justice stood revealed in steel and glass clarity, unforgiving as winter light. The storm had broken. The damage was complete. The honorable retreat had begun. The Manchester winter descended with particular ferocity that January, 6 weeks after the Business Awards revelation. Snow blanketed the city in pristine white, nature's own cleansing ritual mirroring my personal transformation. From my penthouse windows overlooking the River Irwell, the world appeared reborn, old landmarks emerging with new clarity against the stark backdrop. Margaret Thornfield's call came precisely at 9 a.m., her crisp efficiency unchanged by our victory. It's done, she announced without preamble. Judge Hamilton signed the final divorce decree this morning. Record time, his distaste for the conspiracy evidence apparently motivated judicial efficiency. Something loosened in my chest, a tension carried so long it had become part of my physical structure. The settlement? Statutory minimum as expected. £50,000. Her attempts to claim emotional distress and rehabilitative alimony were dismissed with prejudice. Her legal team must have known they'd fail. Performance for future clients, Margaret explained. Showing fight despite hopeless circumstances. Standard practice in high-profile cases. I moved to the window, watching snow swirl across Manchester's skyline, the city that had become my refuge after Liverpool's collapse into memory and media spectacle. And the other legal matters? Criminal charges resulted in suspended sentences for your family members' first-time offenders with exceptional circumstances. Judge Morris was particularly unimpressed with your mother's tearful performance. Victor? Deported to Canada last week after immigration hearing. 10-year ban on UK return due to visa violations and fraud conviction. Currently filing bankruptcy protection in Toronto. And Evan? Fletcher Properties partnership termination upheld by arbitration panel. Required to pay £2 million damages for corporate espionage and breach of fiduciary duty. His countersuit dismissed completely. The systematic dismantling of their lives reported with the same clinical precision they had planned for mine. And the financial picture? Near perfect execution, Margaret replied with rare satisfaction. You've retained $47.5 million of your original $50 million in assets. Fletcher Properties sale to International Development Consortium finalized yesterday, premium price reflecting integrity value according to their press release. And Courtney's trust? Fully secured and completely isolated from all proceedings. Your daughter's inheritance remains intact regardless of any future legal challenges. Another weight lifted my daughter's future protected from the chaos that had engulfed our present. Thank you, Margaret, for everything. The pleasure was professional as well as personal, she replied, allowing rare warmth into her voice. In 30 years of practice, I've never witnessed such comprehensive justice. Later that afternoon, Ian Mackenzie delivered his final surveillance report, complete accounting of the conspirators' current circumstances. The clinical language couldn't disguise the satisfaction underlying his documentation. Caitlin Fletcher, currently residing with university friend Amanda Whitworth in Manchester suburb. Employment at Debenhams department store, cosmetics counter. Salary approximately £18,000 annually. Therapy sessions twice weekly with NHS-assigned psychologist. My ex-wife from luxury villa and marketing directorship to retail position and shared flat in 6 weeks. The velocity of her descent matching the speed of her planned extraction of my assets. Victor Ashford, Toronto residence confirmed. Employment with telemarketing firm selling insurance products. Legal costs have depleted remaining assets, currently sharing apartment with 2 roommates. Canadian authorities monitoring due to immigration fraud concerns. The corporate predator reduced to telephone sales script, his charm weaponized for minimum wage rather than £1,000,000 extraction. Margaret and Richard Fletcher, forced sale of Formby Cottage completed yesterday. Currently relocating to council housing in Kirkby, ironically near your childhood neighborhood. Richard's gambling addiction reportedly worsened under stress, now attending court-mandated rehabilitation program. My parents returning to where my journey began circular justice with particular irony. Sarah and David Thompson, divorce proceedings initiated last week. House repossession underway with auction scheduled for February. Sarah currently working retail positions at both Tesco and local pub. David relocated to Edinburgh, employment status unknown. My sister's dream of millionaire lifestyle through betrayal transformed into double-shift survival and housing instability. Evan Sterling, business reputation effectively destroyed within Liverpool community. Consulting venture attracted 0 clients. Wife retained family home and primary custody of children. Currently residing in serviced apartment with growing rent arrears. Alcohol consumption significantly increased according to receipts and deliveries. My closest friend and business partner, the deepest betrayal resulting in most comprehensive collapse. The Fletcher conspiracy case has become required study at Liverpool Business School's ethics program, Ian concluded. Professor Jenkins has requested interview for case study development. Justice rendered in education as well as consequences the ultimate legacy of their betrayal becoming cautionary tale for future business leaders. That evening, Courtney joined me for dinner in the penthouse, our weekly ritual since relocating to Manchester. At 22, my daughter navigated the aftermath with remarkable resilience, her final university term proceeding despite family implosion. "Mom's therapist contacted me," she mentioned, carefully arranging pasta on her fork. "Suggested healing dialogue might benefit us both." "Your decision entirely," I replied, maintaining my promise of autonomy regarding her relationship with Caitlin. "No pressure either way." She considered this, twirling pasta thoughtfully. "I'm not ready. Maybe someday, but not now. The recordings from that night." She shuddered slightly. "Hearing her discuss me as a pawn to be manipulated against you, it changes everything." "People reveal themselves under pressure," I observed, both positively and negatively. "Dad," she said suddenly, setting down her fork, "are you happy? Not just satisfied with the outcome, but actually happy." The question deserved careful consideration. Happiness had become a foreign concept during months of investigation and revenge architecture. "Not yet," I answered honestly, "but I can see the possibility now. The foundation exists." She nodded, understanding the distinction. "Me too." Later that night, alone in the penthouse that still felt transitional rather than home, I reviewed the financial aftermath of justice. The spreadsheets told a story of strategic victory, assets preserved, liabilities minimized, future secured. Fletcher Properties, the company I'd built over 2 decades, now belonged to International Development Consortium, the sale generating premium valuation due to integrity considerations, according to their press release. My professional reputation had paradoxically strengthened through public exposure of personal betrayal. My personal assets remained secure, £47.5 million, protected through complex legal structures designed by Margaret Thornfield. The conspirators had targeted $50 million, but secured only $50,000, a return on investment of 0.1%. Courtney's inheritance trust stood completely isolated from all proceedings, her future education, housing, and financial security guaranteed regardless of further legal challenges. The next generation protected from current generation's betrayal. Family support terminated permanently, monthly allowances, mortgage assistance, emergency loans all disappeared overnight. The financial dependency they had leveraged against me now became the instrument of their downfall. Justice, rendered in pounds and pence as well as public exposure. As January snow continued falling past midnight, I stood at floor-to-ceiling windows watching Manchester transform beneath winter's blanket. The architect of revenge had completed his design. The structure stood revealed in perfect precision, each consequence mapped to corresponding betrayal. Yet something remained unfinished. The design executed flawlessly, but the architect himself unchanged. Justice delivered to others while I remained frozen in amber, preserved in the moment of betrayal discovery. Revenge architecture had consumed 7 months of life, every waking moment dedicated to its perfect execution. What now? The question lingered as snow continued falling, transforming familiar landscape into unrecognizable terrain. Perhaps therein lay the answer: transformation rather than restoration. Not returning to who I'd been before betrayal, but becoming someone new entirely. The architect of revenge had completed his design. Now the architect of renewal must begin. Spring arrived in Manchester with tentative optimism, pale green buds emerging through winter's retreat, the city shaking off months of gray with cautious colorfulness. 6 months had passed since the Business Awards revelation, 6 months of systematic consequences unfolding exactly as designed. Fascinating case study in consequence architecture, Sir Charles Whitmore observed as we shared lunch at his private club, the April sunshine warming the conservatory where we sat. Your story has become required reading at 3 business schools. Not exactly my intended legacy, I noted, studying the menu without genuine interest. Legacy arrives in unexpected forms. Charles sipped his water, aristocratic features thoughtful. The Fletcher affair, they're calling it. Ethical implications beyond the personal drama. The comprehensive report had arrived that morning from Ian Mackenzie, final surveillance summary, before terminating monitoring services. 6 months of systematic tracking, documenting the conspirators' descent with clinical precision. Caitlin's circumstances had deteriorated most visibly, from marketing directorship and Woolton Villa to cosmetics counter, and shared flat status collapse as comprehensive as financial. Her $50,000 settlement evaporated quickly between legal fees, temporary housing, and basic survival. The report detailed her current reality with merciless precision. Employment, Debenhams department store, Manchester. Cosmetics counter position, $18,000 annual salary. Housing, 3-bedroom flat shared with 2 roommates in Cheetham Hill. Monthly contribution $650 including utilities. Transportation, public transit exclusively. Mercedes repossessed in January. Mental health, weekly therapy sessions, prescribed anti-anxiety medication and antidepressants. Social status, complete isolation from previous Liverpool circles. No invitations to industry events or social gatherings. Her attempts to contact Courtney continued despite restraining order emails, social media messages, even handwritten letters forwarded through university administration. My daughter maintained silence, the betrayal too profound for facile reconciliation. My parents faced their own systematic destruction. The Formby cottage, purchased during property market bottom in 2008, sold at significant loss during forced liquidation. From retirement comfort to council housing in Kirkby, returning to the working-class neighborhood where my childhood began. Their circumstances painted in equally stark terms. Housing, 2-bedroom council flat, Kirkby estate, waiting list priority due to Richard's deteriorating health. Finances, basic state pension only, savings depleted through gambling losses and legal fees. Health, Richard's gambling addiction worsened under stress, now attending court-mandated rehabilitation. Margaret diagnosed with clinical depression following public exposure. Social status, complete ostracism from previous circles. Church congregation only remaining community connection. My mother's attempted reconciliation 12-page handwritten letter detailing regret, justification, and emotional manipulation remained unanswered in my desk drawer. Some bridges, once burned, leave no foundation for reconstruction. Sarah and David's marriage collapsed entirely under financial pressure, his Scottish relocation becoming permanent separation. My sister's circumstances particularly stark given her previous ambitions. Employment, 2 part-time positions, morning shifts at Tesco, evening work at local pub. Housing, temporarily residing with parents in council flat while bankruptcy proceedings continue. Finances, complete insolvency following house repossession and credit card default judgments. Health, prescribed medication for anxiety and depression, weekly counseling through NHS. Social contacts, attempted reconciliation through Courtney rejected completely. Victor Ashford's Canadian exile continued with appropriate symmetry, the predator who targeted wealthy marriages now struggling in Toronto's anonymous urban sprawl. His professional reputation destroyed by Elena Morrison's systematic communications with international business contacts. Current status. Telemarketing position selling insurance products, approximately $35,000 Canadian annual salary. Housing, shared apartment with 2 roommates in Toronto suburb. Legal status, bankruptcy protection filed. Ongoing immigration monitoring due to UK fraud conviction. Dating, profile on multiple applications listing recently single, minimal success reported. Communication, attempted Facebook contact with Caitlin blocked immediately by her. Perhaps most satisfying was Evan Sterling's complete professional destruction. From respected Fletcher Properties partner to business pariah within 6 months, his betrayal becoming cautionary tale throughout Liverpool's close-knit business community. Professional status, independent consulting venture failed completely. 0 clients secured despite aggressive marketing. Family, divorce finalized March 2013. Wife retained family home and primary custody of children. Housing, rented 1-bedroom flat with increasing arrears notices. Financial, legal judgments totaling $2.3 million including damages, legal fees, and penalties. Health, alcohol consumption increased dramatically. Outpatient treatment recommended but refused. The systematic dismantling of 6 lives, each consequence precisely calibrated to corresponding betrayal. Justice architecture executed with mathematical precision. "You've been monitoring them," Sir Charles observed, reading my expression accurately. "Still collecting intelligence?" "Final report arrived this morning," I confirmed. "Monitoring services terminated effective today." He studied me over steepled fingers. Does their suffering bring satisfaction? The question deserved careful consideration. 6 months of documented consequences, 6 lives systematically dismantled through their own actions exposed. Not satisfaction, I answered finally. Confirmation that actions generate appropriate consequences, that betrayal exacts proportional cost. And having confirmed this principle, I can begin looking forward rather than monitoring backward. Charles nodded approvingly. Precisely right. The past belongs in surveillance reports. The future requires architectural vision of entirely different nature. The conversation shifted to business opportunities, Charles introducing potential clients for my newly established consultancy. The Fletcher name had paradoxically gained value through the scandal, integrity under pressure, becoming marketable commodity in post-financial crisis business climate. That evening, I received unexpected message from Elena Morrison, Victor's former employer, and unwitting accomplice in his predatory strategy. Fletcher Morrison Holdings Board approved Ethics Compliance Division establishment today. Your consultancy recommendations directly responsible. Contract proposal forthcoming if interested. Appropriate Symmetry, the company that harbored your wife's conspirator, now implementing your integrity frameworks. Justice extending beyond personal vindication to systemic change, the ultimate architectural achievement. The spring evening found me walking along Manchester's revitalized waterfront, the city's industrial past transformed into contemporary urban landscape. Architectural regeneration surrounding me, warehouses becoming apartments, factories transformed into galleries, working canal reimagined as leisure space. Personal regeneration required similar vision, not restoration, but transformation, not returning to pre-betrayal identity, but creating something entirely new from existing foundation. My phone interrupted these reflections, Courtney calling from university. "Dad, you'll never believe who approached me today," she began without preamble. "Sarah just appeared outside my economics lecture." What did she want? Protective instinct immediately activated despite my daughter's adult status. The usual forgiveness, explanation, reconciliation, said she's not like the others, that she was manipulated by circumstances. Your response? I told her actions reveal character under pressure, that betrayal isn't circumstantial but fundamental. Her voice carried pride in the principle. Then I walked away. Impressed with your clarity, I told her truthfully. I learned from watching you, she replied. Not the revenge part necessarily, but the principles underneath. That loyalty matters. That trust requires verification. That family is defined by behavior, not blood. Wisdom beyond her 22 years, perhaps the only positive legacy from our family implosion. Later that night, I reviewed property listings online, considering permanent residence rather than transitional penthouse. Manchester had become refuge rather than exile, the city's industrial resilience mirroring my own gradual reconstruction. An alert appeared on my phone news notification regarding Liverpool business community. Evan Sterling hospitalized following alcohol poisoning incident at local pub. Former Fletcher Properties partner found unconscious by staff. Current condition stabilized. The notification generated no satisfaction, merely confirmation that self-destruction requires no external architect. My surveillance had ended officially that morning. Their lives would continue their trajectories without my observation or intervention. As April evening settled over Manchester, I closed the surveillance reports, permanently relegating them to archive rather than active consideration. The fate of the traitors had been determined through their own actions exposed. Justice had been served with mathematical precision. The architect of revenge could now retire, his design completed to exact specifications. The architect of renewal awaited his moment. New Zealand's South Island unfolded beneath me in dramatic revelation, jagged mountains thrusting through clouds, glacial lakes reflecting impossible blue, pristine wilderness extending beyond visible horizon. 3 months into my self-prescribed recovery journey, the landscape perfectly matched my internal state, raw, beautiful, demanding presence rather than analysis. Milford Sound appears after this ridge, my guide Corey explained, weathered face creased with permanent smile lines. Most tourists see it from cruise boats. You'll witness it earned through honest sweat. The 3-day trek had stripped away mental clutter accumulated through decades of business focus and months of revenge architecture. Physical exertion muscles burning, Lungs straining in thin mountain air demanded complete attention to present moment, rather than past betrayal or future planning. In Maori tradition, these mountains were carved by Atua divine beings. Kaori continued as we climbed. They understood that beauty requires violence. Creation demands destruction first. Philosophy delivered without pretension, wisdom emerging naturally from connection to landscape. I'd chosen New Zealand deliberately as first destination, the farthest possible point from Liverpool physically and psychologically. 3 months of travel. New Zealand for isolation and perspective, Canada for wilderness immersion, Scotland for ancestral connection. Dr. Rebecca Hayes had approved the strategy during our weekly video sessions, therapy continuing remotely throughout my journey. Physical distance creates psychological space, she'd explained. New environments interrupt established thought patterns. Travel becomes literal and metaphorical journey simultaneously. The ridge summit finally arrived, revealing Milford Sound in spectacular panorama, ancient fjord cutting through mountains to distant Tasman Sea. The landscape's indifference to human concerns felt strangely comforting perspective beyond personal drama, time frame extending millions of years rather than months. Worth the climb? Kari asked, knowing the answer. Beyond words, I acknowledged. Camera forgotten despite photographer's instinct developed during travel months. That's when you know something matters, he observed with simple profundity, when words become inadequate. The New Zealand phase, 3 weeks hiking remote trails, kayaking pristine waters, sleeping in isolated cabins provided essential reset. Physical exhaustion ensuring dreamless sleep untroubled by betrayal replays. Natural beauty demanding presence rather than rumination. Canada continued the healing trajectory, Northwest Territories wilderness, offering similar isolation with different landscape. Boreal forests, crystal lakes, northern lights dancing across vast skies. Local guide Mathieu sharing indigenous wisdom without commercialization. The land remembers everything, he explained while teaching traditional fishing techniques. But it doesn't hold grudges. Water flows, seasons change, renewal follows destruction. Always. Scotland completed the physical journey, ancestral homeland explored through remote highlands hiking rather than tourist destinations. Primal landscape of mist-covered mountains and ancient stone, speaking to genetic memory beyond conscious understanding. Guide Callum, 60-something former Royal Marine with encyclopedic knowledge of Scottish history, providing context without intrusion. Clan Fletcher originated in these valleys, he explained as we traversed remote glen. Arrow makers by trade, the name itself comes from that craft, creating tools for both protection and provision. And occasionally retribution, I observed. Aye, that too. His weathered face creased with understanding. Scots understand vengeance better than most, but also its cost to the avenger. Throughout these physical journeys, the internal work continued. Weekly sessions with Dr. Hayes providing structure and accountability. Her approach, combining pragmatic analysis with emotional intelligence, perfectly matched my needs. Betrayal trauma differs from other injuries, she explained during our Canadian wilderness session, her office appearing incongruously professional on my satellite phone screen. The perpetrators are trusted figures, making the fundamental assumptions about relationship safety collapse simultaneously. Explaining the disproportionate impact. Exactly. When your wife betrays you, it's not just marital breakdown, it's identity dissolution. When family conspires against you, fundamental trust in human connection becomes compromised. So healing requires reconstructing those assumptions from scratch, testing trust incrementally rather than automatically, building relationships with complete awareness rather than inherited obligation. The sessions progressed from analysis to practical application strategies for rebuilding connection capacity without naivety, trust with verification rather than blind faith, loyalty based on demonstrated behavior rather than claimed intention. The physical journal begun in New Zealand evolved from therapeutic exercise to potential manuscript, betrayed but not beaten, emerging organically through daily writing practice. The narrative structured not as revenge chronicle, but as resilience blueprint. The writing serves dual purpose, Dr. Hayes noted during our Scottish Highland session. Processing your experience while potentially helping others navigate similar betrayals. Transforming personal trauma into public resource. Precisely. the ultimate reclamation of agency from victimhood. The 3-month journey concluded in late August, returned to Manchester bringing integration challenge rather than post-vacation depression. The temporary penthouse awaiting replacement with permanent residence. Fletcher Consulting requiring attention after minimal maintenance during travel period. The transformation became evident during first post-return meeting with Sir Charles Whitmore, his aristocratic eyebrows rising slightly at visible changes. "The wilderness has agreed with you," he observed over lunch at his private club. "Something fundamentally different in your bearing." 3 months without business attire or board meetings, I replied lightly, though understanding the change extended beyond appearance. "Beyond that," he insisted, "you've crossed some internal threshold. The architect of revenge has been replaced by something else entirely." His perception proved unnervingly accurate, the internal shift more significant than physical journey. The obsessive focus on justice and consequences had gradually transformed into forward-oriented creation. Revenge architecture completed, renewal blueprint emerging. The practical manifestations appeared immediately upon return. Fletcher Consulting officially launched with Manchester headquarters, specializing in crisis management and corporate integrity. The Business Awards revelation generating unexpected credibility in ethics consulting arena. The man who exposed conspiracy within his own family has unquestionable integrity credentials, as Sir Charles observed wryly. First-year client acquisition exceeded projections, 8 major corporations signing contracts within initial months. Revenue reaching $1.2 million without aggressive marketing, reputation and referrals driving growth organically. Speaking engagements followed naturally, business schools and corporate retreats, requesting presentations on integrity under pressure and ethical leadership through crisis. The personal narrative transformed into professional expertise through careful curation. Private transformation matched professional evolution. Piano lessons resumed childhood passion abandoned during career-building decades. The Steinway Grand installed in Manchester penthouse becoming daily ritual rather than occasional indulgence. Physical fitness improved dramatically through disciplined regimen gym training, weekend hiking in Peak District, sailing lessons on nearby lakes. The body becoming instrument of pleasure rather than stress repository. Charity involvement provided unexpected healing, second chance foundation, supporting betrayed spouses through legal, financial, and emotional recovery. My experience and resources helping others navigate similar devastation. Most significant remained the relationship with Courtney, father-daughter connection strengthening through shared trauma and recovery. Her university studies concluding successfully despite family implosion, her resilience matching my own through different expression. "You're setting ridiculous recovery standards, Dad," she observed during weekend visit, curled in penthouse window seat overlooking Manchester skyline. "Most betrayed husbands get drunk and hook up with inappropriate rebounds. You're building consulting empire and learning Chopin nocturnes." "Different coping mechanisms," I acknowledged with rare smile, "though the inappropriate rebound phase may yet appear." "Please no," she grimaced theatrically. "I'm still processing Mom's betrayal. Can't handle Dad's midlife crisis simultaneously." The comfortable banter represented genuine healing ability to reference betrayal without emotional hijacking. Progress measured in emotional regulation rather than circumstantial improvement. The family reckoning continued despite my disengagement from surveillance. Margaret's attempted reconciliation letter, 12 pages of justification thinly disguised as apology, remained unanswered in desk drawer. Richard's health deteriorated further, gambling addiction worsening despite court-mandated treatment. Sarah's attempted contact through Courtney met consistent rejection, my daughter's boundaries proving surprisingly robust despite her youth. "The Fletcher women have titanium spines," as Dr. Hayes observed approvingly. My response to these overtures remained consistent. I forgive them for my peace, but trust is gone forever. Forgiveness as internal release rather than external reconciliation, the distinction essential for genuine healing. New relationships developed organically, friendship circle reconstructed with careful consideration rather than historical accident. Dr. Hayes transitioning from therapist to advisor as formal treatment concluded. Sir Charles Whitmore becoming mentor figure through business and personal guidance. Dating remained deliberately delayed trust capacity requiring reconstruction before romantic engagement. You'll recognize readiness when it arrives, Dr. Hayes advised. Like physical healing, emotional recovery follows natural progression when not forced. As summer transitioned to autumn, Manchester's industrial beauty revealed new dimensions: red brick buildings glowing in golden light, canal reflections creating doubled reality, urban renewal visible in construction cranes punctuating skyline. The architect of renewal had replaced revenge designer, transformation rather than restoration becoming guiding principle. The healing journey continued not toward pre-betrayal state, but toward entirely new integration. The notebook begun in New Zealand mountains now contained manuscript nearing completion, betrayed but not beaten, evolving from personal therapy to potential publication. The final chapter remained unwritten, conclusion requiring perspective still developing. Healing measured not in betrayer's suffering, but in personal reconstruction capacity for joy, connection, and creation, despite fundamental trust violation. The journey continuing beyond revenge toward genuine renewal. May 2014 arrived in Manchester with exceptional beauty spring blossoms transforming industrial cityscape. Sunshine warming red brick to glowing warmth, River Irwell reflecting cerulean sky rather than typical cloud cover. 18 months after the Business Awards revelation, the city had become home rather than refuge, its transformative spirit mirroring my own evolution. The Children's Hospital Charity Gala represented my first major social engagement without business purpose, black tie event supporting pediatric cancer research rather than networking opportunity. The decision to attend came from genuine philanthropic interest rather than strategic positioning, another marker of internal transformation. "You've achieved unicorn status," Sir Charles Whitmore observed as we shared pre-event drinks in the Manchester Midland Hotel bar, his aristocratic features arranged in rare, genuine amusement. Wealthy divorced businessman who actually improved after marital collapse, development contrary to established pattern. "Necessity rather than virtue," I replied, adjusting unfamiliar bow tie. "Survival required complete reconstruction. Results rather than motivation create legacy," he countered philosophically. "Speaking of which, your entrance will create inevitable stir. Prepared for attention?" The Fletcher affair had transcended business scandal to become cultural reference point, required case study in ethics courses, cautionary tale in marriage counseling, even inspired television drama currently in production. My public appearances still generated media interest despite 18 months' distance from events. "Attention fades," I observed. "Story becomes yesterday's sensation eventually." "Until dramatic new chapter emerges," Charles noted with meaningful glance toward ballroom entrance, "such as eligible businessman appearing at society function without business agenda." The ballroom itself represented Manchester's industrial evolution, former cotton exchange transformed into elegant venue, Victorian architectural grandeur updated with contemporary refinement. Crystal chandeliers illuminated space once dedicated to textile trading, string quartet playing where commodity prices once dominated conversation. The hospital fundraising committee had created sophisticated atmosphere floral arrangements in signature blue and white hospital colors, subtle children's artwork incorporated into sophisticated design, notable absence of rubber chicken typically associated with charity dinners. "Adrian Fletcher," announced familiar voice behind me. "You're the last person I expected at non-business function." I turned to find Elena Morrison, Victor's former employer and unexpected ally during Business Awards aftermath. Her elegant silver hair and commanding presence unchanged since our last interaction. "Personal evolution," I explained, accepting champagne from passing waiter. "Discovering life beyond business objectives. Remarkable transformation," she noted with professional assessment. "The man who orchestrated most comprehensive revenge in Liverpool history, now supporting children's causes through voluntary association." "Justice rather than revenge," I corrected automatically. "Distinction matters." "As does evolution beyond either," she countered perceptively. "Morrison Holdings Ethics Compliance Division sends regards, by the way. Your consulting framework revolutionized corporate culture, predatory behavior eliminated through systematic accountability. Transformation through painful catalyst," I observed. "Organizational parallel to personal journey." "Speaking of catalysts," Elena nodded discreetly toward approaching figure. Your next evolution appears imminent. She departed with aristocratic efficiency as Dr. Emma Richardson approached pediatric surgeon and charity gala organizer according to program notes. Dark hair styled in practical bob, minimal makeup enhancing rather than masking natural features, simple elegance in midnight blue gown suggesting confidence beyond decorative concerns. Mr. Fletcher, she extended hand with surgeon's direct gaze. Emma Richardson, thank you for supporting our cause despite minimal connection to pediatric medicine. Adrian, please, I corrected, noting firm handshake and complete absence of artificial charm so prevalent in charity circuit. Meaningful causes transcend personal connection. Refreshing perspective, she approved, intelligence evident in rapid assessment. Most donors require direct benefit or public recognition. Your anonymous contribution suggested different motivation. The anonymous donation substantial support for pediatric oncology research deliberately unlisted in program materials represented genuine philanthropic evolution rather than strategic positioning. The fact she'd identified me despite this anonymity indicated thorough preparation. Cancer research transcends marketing opportunities, I replied simply. Results matter more than recognition. Principle applicable beyond medicine, she noted with surprising perception. Your business awards revelation demonstrated similar prioritization of truth over appearance. The direct reference to scandal, typically avoided through social circumlocution, registered as refreshing honesty rather than inappropriate mention. You've researched me, I observed without accusation. Thoroughly, she confirmed unapologetically. Major donors receive comprehensive background assessment. Hospital can't afford association with questionable funding sources. And my background passed scrutiny despite public scandal? Because of it, actually, she corrected with unexpected smile. The man who exposed corruption within his own family rather than preserving appearances demonstrates exactly the integrity our institution requires. The conversation shifted to hospital initiatives, Emma describing pediatric oncology advances with passionate expertise rather than fundraising platitudes. Her comprehensive knowledge and evident commitment contrasting sharply with typical charity figureheads. You actually perform the surgeries, I noted as she detailed specific procedures, not merely administrative figurehead. 3 days weekly in operating theater, she confirmed. Administration and fundraising necessary evils rather than career focus. Balance challenging? Essential, she corrected. Direct patient care maintains perspective when bureaucracy threatens purpose. The dinner program began hospital director delivering mercifully brief welcome before patient testimonials. Children's stories presented with dignity rather than exploitation. Medical achievements described with appropriate humility. Funding needs outlined with transparency rather than manipulation. Emma departed for organizational responsibilities, returning periodically between official functions. Our conversation resuming naturally during intervals, unexpected connection, developing through mutual recognition of authentic purpose rather than social performance. You've built something meaningful from betrayal's aftermath, she observed during dessert service. Most people collapse or merely survive such fundamental trust violation, speaking from professional observation or personal experience. The question emerged without strategic calculation, genuine curiosity, rather than tactical advantage. Both, she acknowledged after brief consideration. Marriage ended 5 years ago when husband decided surgical career and family commitment proved incompatible with his personal growth journey translation. Affair with pharmaceutical representative. I'm sorry, I offered. Recognition of shared experience creating unexpected connection. Necessary catalyst, she countered with resilient perspective. Painful transformation, rather than comfortable stagnation. Complete reconstruction rather than patched repair, I agreed, recognizing parallel journey. Exactly, she confirmed with surprised recognition, though your betrayal scenario exponentially more complex. Different scale, similar principle, I suggested. Trust violation forcing fundamental reassessment rather than incremental adjustment. The evening concluded with auction hospital equipment funded through competitive philanthropy, Emma orchestrating proceedings with efficient charm. My anonymous donation supplemented by successful bid for children's art collection, genuine appreciation rather than strategic positioning. As event concluded, Emma approached with direct proposal characteristic of her communication style. Coffee next week? She suggested without artificial pretext. Conversation without fundraising agenda or social performance requirements. I'd like that, I replied with equal directness. Professional responsibility requires transparency, she added with characteristic honesty. Romantic potential recognized but secondary to genuine connection development. Appropriate progression rate negotiable. The surgeon's precision applied to relationship parameters, refreshing clarity rather than social ambiguity. Transparency appreciated and reciprocated, I assured her. Similar perspective regarding connection development and progression rate. We exchanged contact information modern convenience within traditional interaction before departing separately. No artificial dramatic conclusion, simply practical arrangement for future exploration. The drive home through Manchester evening provided reflection opportunity, unexpected connection registered as significant milestone rather than casual interaction. 18 months after complete betrayal, genuine interest emerging organically rather than strategic pursuit. Emma Richardson represented everything Caitlin wasn't professionally accomplished independently, financially secure through her own efforts, emotionally self-sufficient without manipulation requirement. The pediatric surgeon's direct communication and authentic purpose, contrasting sharply with my ex-wife's calculated charm and strategic agenda. The Manchester penthouse recently purchased rather than rented commitment to permanent residence rather than transitional housing welcomed me with familiar comfort. The Steinway Grand in dedicated music room, photography equipment organized in home studio, sailing charts for weekend lake excursions, all representing reconstructed identity beyond betrayal survivor. Coffee evolved to dinner, concerts, weekend excursions, 8 months of careful connection development with complete transparency regarding past experiences and future expectations. Emma's surgical precision extending to emotional clarity, her independence complementing rather than threatening my reconstructed boundaries. You've created rare balance, she observed during autumn sailing excursion on Lake Windermere. Professional success without workaholism, emotional capacity without vulnerability exploitation, appropriate caution without paranoid restriction. Evolution through necessity, I acknowledged, adjusting sail as wind shifted. Complete collapse requiring intentional reconstruction rather than automatic response. Most people repeat established patterns despite disaster evidence, she noted with professional assessment. Your complete transformation represents statistical anomaly. Compliment disguised as clinical observation, I suggested with rare teasing. Surgeon's perspective, she admitted with answering smile. Emotional assessment requiring translation to normal human communication. Courtney approved with characteristic directness during Manchester visit her business school studies concluding successfully despite family disruption. She's actually real, my daughter observed after meeting Emma. Genuine person rather than performance artist like Mom. Harsh assessment, I noted without genuine objection. Accurate assessment, she corrected with Fletcher directness. The mother I wish I'd always had accomplished without manipulation, confident without constant validation, honest without strategic calculation. Premature mother comparison, I cautioned. Relationship still developing. Relationship flourishing, she countered perceptively. Statistical probability of permanent commitment increasing exponentially with each interaction. Business school terminology for emotional assessment? Manchester Business School graduate applying analytical framework to father's romantic prospects, she clarified with mock seriousness. Professional assessment disguised as daughter's approval. Emma's family demonstrated similarly straightforward acceptance, her parents welcoming without excessive performance, siblings engaging with genuine interest rather than calculated impression management. Normal family dynamics representing remarkable contrast to Fletcher conspiracy experience. They actually like each other, I observed after Sunday lunch with Richardson family. Genuine enjoyment rather than financial dependency or strategic alliance. Normal family functioning appears extraordinary through betrayal-adjusted perspective, Emma noted with characteristic perception. Baseline healthy relationships seem remarkable when dysfunction becomes normalized through experience. Professional success matched personal evolution, Fletcher Consulting expanding to Edinburgh and Dublin offices within 18 months of establishment. Crisis management and corporate integrity specialization, generating $3.2 million annual revenue without aggressive marketing. The memoir, Betrayed But Not Beaten, published to unexpected commercial success and critical recognition. Royalties directed to betrayal recovery charities rather than personal profit. Media appearances focused on resilience principles rather than scandal details. Guest lecturer position at Liverpool Business School represented particular milestone return to Betrayal City as ethics expert rather than victim. The Fletcher affair transformed from personal humiliation to educational case study through intentional narrative management. International speaking engagements followed naturally business ethics conferences featuring betrayal recovery expertise alongside corporate integrity frameworks. Personal narrative transformed into professional wisdom through careful curation and authentic integration. The Manchester penthouse evolved from transitional space to permanent residence river view, providing daily reminder of industrial transformation paralleling personal evolution. The piano room where evening concerts for Emma became regular ritual. Photography studio displaying images from healing journey travels. Sailing maps marking weekend escapes with expanding skill development. Courtney's graduation from Manchester Business School, followed by position within Fletcher Consulting, represented generational transformation beyond betrayal impact. Her engagement to James Bennett, accountant from decent family with actual functional dynamics, as she described, suggesting health continuation despite family origin trauma. The call regarding Richard's death arrived on typical Tuesday, my father's gambling addiction and deteriorating health reaching inevitable conclusion through cerebral hemorrhage during rehabilitation center residence. The solicitor's formal notification requiring response regarding funeral arrangements and estate administration. "Will you attend?" Emma asked that evening, her surgeon's directness addressing question others might avoid. "No," I answered with equal clarity. Permanent severance remains appropriate boundary despite death circumstance. Instead, I planted memorial tree in Manchester Park the following weekend, small oak accompanied by simple marker, "For the father I wish I had." "Any regrets about how it ended?" Emma asked as we stood beside sapling, her question encompassing entire betrayal aftermath rather than merely funeral absence. "I regret trusting blindly," I replied after thoughtful consideration. "I don't regret fighting back." "Proportional response to existential threat," she observed with characteristic precision. "Self-preservation requiring decisive action rather than passive acceptance." "Followed by complete reconstruction rather than revenge fixation," I added, acknowledging critical distinction. "Justice completion, allowing renewal commencement." Christmas 2014 arrived with unexpected peacefulness, Manchester penthouse transformed through subtle decorations, Emma's family joining celebration alongside Courtney and fiancé James. Traditional dinner prepared together rather than catering service, presents selected for meaning rather than impression, conversation flowing without strategic undertones or manipulation agendas. Later that evening, after guests departed for nearby hotel accommodations, Emma and I sat beside Christmas tree multicolored lights reflecting against floor-to-ceiling windows, Manchester cityscape twinkling beyond glass expanse. Piano music playing softly through hidden speakers, fireplace providing gentle warmth against December chill. "Are you happy?" she asked with characteristic directness, surgeon's precision targeting essential question beneath circumstantial contentment. The question deserved careful consideration, happiness representing elusive concept following betrayal's fundamental disruption. The architect of revenge had achieved justice through meticulous design. The architect of renewal had constructed new foundation through intentional reconstruction. I studied the photograph recently placed on mantle myself, Emma, Courtney at Lake District weekend. Genuine smiles rather than posed performance, authentic connection rather than strategic alliance, family redefined through chosen loyalty rather than biological accident. "For the first time in years," I answered truthfully, "completely. The transformation complete not through revenge satisfaction, but through renewal architecture. Not restoration of previous identity, but creation of entirely new integration. Not victory over betrayers, but transcendence beyond betrayal itself. the lesson distilled through experience rather than intellectual exercise. Blood doesn't make family, loyalty does. Love doesn't mean accepting betrayal, it means protecting what matters. And sometimes the greatest gift life gives you is showing who people really are, before it's too late to protect yourself. The architect of revenge had completed his design, justice served with mathematical precision. The architect of renewal had created entirely new structure, authentic life beyond betrayal's shadow. The new beginning stood complete, not endpoint, but foundation for continuing evolution beyond betrayal's limiting narrative.